Good evening.
Good evening, Abe.
How are we?
We are on Gimel Amud Bays near the bottom. Mario is here, my house, so we're just waiting for him to turn on.
Okay.
Here you are. Okay. There's George.
Me, that is me.
So we're on Gimel Amud Bays near the bottom. So we said that Rabbi Yochanan, what's going on? Mario, you should go ahead and
Mute. I know why we have to.
Okay, Mario's mute. Okay. So we're trying to find a Stam Mishnah where Rav Yochanan holds that a lav with not ma'isa, you don't get malchus. So they learn it from the following: Shavuos shaloi oichal ki karzu. Person takes an oath, I'm not going to eat this loaf of bread. And then he repeats it and he says, Shavuos shalo ochlena. I take an oath, I won't eat it. And the achla, so you might think, since he made two oaths, he's chayiv twice. No, ain't a chayiv alachas. Because there's a principle, ain't shvua chalal shvua. Once there's a first shvua, there's no second shvua. And zui shvuas bitui. This is a false shvua, shechayoven al zdono makas, that if you do it b'mezid, you get malchus. If you do it b'shoigig v'ashigoso korban oil of yored, you do a sliding scale. And zoe the chayoven al zdono makas. The Gemara is medayik. We're on Daled Amud Aleph, Walter. Zoe the chayoven al zdono makas. It's this type of shvua where he says, where he takes an oath that he's not going to eat, and then he eats. Because eating is an active act. But if he took an oath that I'm going to eat, and he doesn't eat, so that's passive, lo lucky. So the Gemara wants to say, this is the Stam Mishnah that Rabbi Yochanan had, that taught him that a lav she'en bo ma'isa, you don't get malchus. However, the Gemara says, Michti haistam of haistam. Yeah, but we have an unnamed Mishnah, the first Mishnah of our Perek, in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, that seems to imply that a lav she'en bo ma'isa, you do get malchus. My chazi da aviki haistam, aviki haistam. Why did Rabbi Yochanan eventually paskin like this second Stam Mishnah to say that a lav she'en bo ma'isa, you don't get malchus? Let him do like the first Stam Mishnah. So, according to your reasoning, Rebbe, the editor of the Mishnayos, Gufei, how in fact did Rebbe, the Hanasi, who wrote the Mishnah, give two Stam Mishnahs which are diametrically opposed to each other? So in fact, there's a historical story. Initially, Rebbe felt that a law that even though there's no ma'isa, you get malchus. Ustama, and he quoted a Stam Mishnah, the name of Rabbi Shmuel, like that approach. However, Hadar, he changed his mind later in life. V'savar ein loikin alav, and now he held that a lav she'en bo ma'isa, you don't get malchus. And Ustama, and he made a Mishnah, a Stam Mishnah, like that approach. However, Umishna lo zaza bimkom. Once he codified a Mishnah, it didn't change. It remained the way it was learned initially, even though la halacha, he paskins like the second Stam Mishnah. Okay. Now, the Mayu Kimta, how did you set up the authorship of our Mishnah? When we said Shavuos Shtayim Shein Arba, we said it's Rabbi Shmuel and Yin Malchus, right? Because in all four cases, even for past tense, Rabbi Shmuel held you get malchus. However, another example was mentioned, Marus Nagoyim, when a Kohen looks at Nagoyim. What kind of malchus is involved? My malchus. So the Gemara answers, B'shekoitzitz ba'araso. If you have like a growth, which is a baheres, and it's deemed by the Kohen to be a neged saras. So the Torah says, Hishomer b'neged saras. Be careful. Don't cut it off. Rav Avin Amar Rabbi Loi, Shomer Rav Avin Amar Loi, Kol makom shenemer Hishomer pen v'al, Eino ela lo sase. It creates a lav. That Hishomer b'neged saras means it's a mitzvah lo sase, not to cut off this nega, rather you should show it to the Kohen. And if you cut it off, you get malchus. Okay. So the Gemara explained about Maris Nagoyim. Yitzia Shabbos, my malchusika. What kind of malchus is there if you violate Shabbos? Lav shenit and Lazarus misas besnu. You get skila, not malchus. And we have a principle called lav shenit and Lazarus misas besnu. Ain't like a lav. If death penalty has been attached to a lav, you don't get malchus. So Mishamachi kop mukimna Rabbi Shmuel. The Omar lav shenit and Lazarus misas besnu like a lav. That's another reason why they set up this mission like Rabbi Shmuel, because Rabbi Shmuel is also of the opinion that a lav, even though there's misa based and attached, you get malchus. If, for example, if they gave him asra for malchus, you give him malchus, you wouldn't give him misa's best. Okay, so based on this, halav hachi, without this kasha, kamina Rabbi Kiva, we would have said that the mission is like Rabbi Kiva, that you don't get malchus at all. So kasha yedias, you can't say 2 out of 4, because he held that hela mikdash, you're not chayv a korban. So lav amrit Rabbi Shmuel liyu malchus. Didn't you answer Rabbi Shmuel to say that he's dealing shtayim shein arba regarding malchus? Same thing with Rabbi Kiva nami ulinyan malchus. It shouldn't say yediyasa too much. It should say hasros mebeli. It should say the warnings from malchus. Haloi kasha tani yediyas hasra. He knows that he's oiver and isser, and he's going to get malchus because he had hasra. Iachi shtaim shein arba. Why do you say 2, which is 4? Tarti udavin. There's 2 asras. That when you give asra, you say either you're tameh or you're walking to the base of Mikdash. There's only 2 malchus, al tumas hakodesh and tumas hamikdash. V'su es sheyesh b'yediyah b'tchila. The case where the person knew that he was tameh, and then he forgot, and he walked into the base of Mikdash, right? V'yediyah b'sof. In the end, he was told that he was tameh when he walked into the base of Mikdash. But v'helam b'intayim, there was a forgetfulness in the middle. So you don't get malchus for that. You got to know what you're doing wrong to get malchus. Halom el malchus maya vidite. So that doesn't fit. V'su hareza be'oil of yorin, not malchus. It's clearly a korban. So how can you say it doesn't work out? Not like Rabbi Shmuel, not like Rabbi Kiva. El Amar Rav Yosef, Rebbe. Our Mishnah is a third shita, Rebbe. V'nasiv la libid tanoi. And he took one Tana's approach for one subject and another Tana's approach for something else. Be Yediyas, regarding Yediyas, Satum and Nasiv like Rabbi Shmuel. Shtain Shem Arba regarding Malchus. Be Shavuos Nasiv like Rabbi Kiva. Ravashi. Amriti Lishmaitza Kameid Rav Kana. We learned this sugi in front of Rav Kana. Amrali, Lo Tema Sherebi Nasiv la Libid Tanoi. Don't teach me this concept that Rebbe paskin like 2 tanaim, but v'leilos but he didn't hold like that. Ela Rebbe tamei denafshem afarsh. He's telling us his own svara that he holds that you do get a chiyuv if you swear on the past, and there's chiyuv for helen mikdash. The Tanya minayin she'eno chayiv ela al sheyesh bo yadir b'chiliv yadir b'sof elementar. You're not chayiv to bring a korban oil of yored, on Tumas Migdash Ukdoshav, unless he knew that he was Tameh, he forgot, and then he was reminded again. Talmud Loimar, v'nelam, shnei pa'amim div Rabbi Kiva. It says, O nefesh asher tiga b'chol tameh, a person who touches something tameh. V'nelam imenu. And he forgets it. V'hu tameh. O ki yiga b'tumas adam, v'nelam imenu v'hu yada. So it says haloma twice. And therefore, to tell me that there's a yediyah between the two halomas. Rabbi Omer Einat Tzarech, we don't need this pasuk. Areyu Omer, in the same pasuk, what does it say? O ki yiga b'tumas adam. Let's say you touch something, v'ne'elam mimenu, and then v'hu yada. V'ne'elam, meaning if he forgot, it means michlal the yada, that at one point he knew. So v'hu yada arei kan shtei yediyah. So you have yediyah of forgetting and a yediyah afterwards. So there we know you need a forgetfulness in the middle. So in fact, imkein matam udlamer v'ne'elam. Why was v'ne'elam repeated? L'chayv alem tuma v'gam al helim migdash. It's not just that you bring a korban if one case is where you forget that you're tameh, and the other case is where you forget that this is the base of Mikdash. He didn't know that he was entering a holy place. Ashkechan b'yediyas tislei time in denafshek. Fine. By the yediyas satuma, you've shown us Rebbe's individual shita, not like Rabbi Kiva. But l'shvuas the less late time in denafshek. He goes strictly with Rabbi Kiva, doesn't have his own opinion. Minolan, where do you get this? Svarahu. It's logical to say it. Lishnachrina, another version of this approach. Ashkechan b'yidisatuma d'sarva like Rabbi Shmuel. We find by the knowing and the forgetting of the state of tumas like Rabbi Shmuel. But b'shvuas d'sarva like Rabbi Kiva minolan, that you also get punished for shvuas that you take in the past. Svarahu, it's logical. Rabbi Kiva might time al kumachayev al sha'avar. Why did Rabbi Kiva say that not only for future shvuas, like I take a shvuah that I'm going to eat in the future a loaf of bread, and then you don't eat it, but it's also for a shvuah that you take in the past. I take a shvuah that yesterday I ate a loaf of bread. Where does Rabbi Kiva get that you're chayav for saying a false shvuah like that? The dorish ribui umiuti. He darshans the pasuk not through klalu pratu klal, but rather through ribui umiut. And Rabbi Nami dorish ribui umiuti. The Tanya. Rabbi Omer. Bakol poidin b'chorad. A bechor has to be brought to the kohen and has to be redeemed for 5 shloim. And you can use any money, chutz min ashtaros. You can't use a check. You can't use an IOU or star. But Rabbanan Amri b'chol poidin b'chorad. They say you can use any money value, chutz me'avodim shtaros for karkos, except for Neved Knani, a star, or land. You can't redeem a Bechor with those things. Now, what's the root of this machlokas between Rebbe and the Chacham? My time at the Rebbe, Dorish Ribui Umiuti. The Pasuk says, Uftu Yavi ben Chodesh Tifte. At 30 days old, you have to redeem the Bechor. Be'erkecha kesef chamesh shkolim b'shekel HaKodesh. So this is our Idarshas. Uptu Yavi ben Chodesh Riba. That you can redeem with anything. But then it gives us a detail. Be'erkecha kesef chamesh shkolim. It limits it to money 5 shkolim, miyed. Daf, it seems like it's saying only money. But then later on it says tifte, which is a general klal again. Chazer v'riba. So we have a structure of riba, miyad, v'riba, riba kol. we include everything except the one specific thing that was excluded. My riba komili, anything that's worth something. My miet shtaros. A star is not in itself money, and it's not even worth anything. You can write a star on a piece of pottery that's not even worth a pruta. So only a star is excluded by Rebbe. However, Rabbanan Darshi Klal Uprati. They use a format of Klal Uprat. The same pasuk. Uvtu Yavi ben Chodesh, Klal, generality. Berkecha Kesav Chamesh Shkolim, Prat. Tifte Chazru Klal. Klal Upratu Klal, Iatadan Alakena Prat. What do? You look at the detail, and you see what the common denominator of the detail is. Ma'aprat Mufurish, 5 shkolim, what is it? Dovra metal talel, you can move it. The gufo mamon, and it itself is money. Av kol dovra metal the gufo mamon. So you can use anything that can be moved and is worth something. Yatsu karkaos. So you can't use land because eina metal, you can't move it. Yatsu avodim, because hukshu lekarkos. They're compared to land. Yatsu shtar sha'afal pishe metaltal, you can move a star, ein gufan mammon. They themselves are not worth anything. Okay. Everything is fine and dandy what you said, but Rebbe Darish Ribu Miut. Is it true that Rebbe Darshan's Ribu Miut? Va Rebbe Klali Uprati Darish. I'm going to bring you proof that Rebbe doesn't learn the methodology of Ribu Miut. Rather, he learns the methodology of Klal Uprat. Detanya. You have an Eved Ivri who is sold for 6 years, but he wants to stay with his master, so he has to have his ear pierced. And there was a device called a martseya, v'lakavtas a martseya, v'nasata be'ozno vadelis. And you have to do it by the doorpost. Martseya, Eliel Martseya. A martseya is a specific tool that was used to pierce ears. Minay l'rabas hasol. This was a thorn from a palm tree. V'asira, another thorn. Hamachad, a needle. V'amegdach, which is another type of carpenter's hole-making thing. V'amichtav, or something that was written on wax. You can use all these implements. Talmud Lomer v'lakachta. Kol davar shenilkach biyad divrei Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. Anything that could be used by hand. Rabbi Yomi Martseya. Ma Martseya miyuchud shel mateches. Martseya is metal. Av kol shel matech. But if it's not metal, you can't use it. So what really is the machlokas here between Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi? B'may kamiflagi. Rabbi Darsh Klali Uprati. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Darish Ribi Umiut. Okay. Tomorrow we will also learn at 7 o'clock, and then the Tzurba at 8 o'clock. Okay?
Shkoyach.
You.
Shkoyach, everybody.